Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Patti Brennan Show. Whether you have $20 or $20 million, this show is for those of you who want to protect, grow, and use your assets to live your very best lives. I am so excited for today's podcast. Joining me today is Natalie Angeloni. Natalie is a nurse like I am, but she has a great practice. And I'll tell you the story about how we met, etc., in a moment. But Natalie is an embodiment coach. So let's start off, Natalie. Do you mind explaining what exactly is that? You know, there's so many different types of coaching. Everybody wants to be a coach. But what I found about what you do is so unique and so helpful because you get to the root of things, don't you?
Yes. Thank you for having me, Patti.
Sure.
So an embodiment coach is a coach who asks powerful questions to spark new awareness. That's a general coach. But an embodiment coach is going to take it a step further and ask you not what you think about things, but how you feel about things. Because we believe that feeling the feelings associated with whatever your goal is, whatever you're currently feeling and the way you want to feel, is really the key to moving yourself forward and taking aligned action. Otherwise, we're just thinking our way through and we're abandoning everything from the neck down. And it holds a lot of story. Our bodies hold a lot of story.
Well, that's what I find so interesting. It sounds kind of foo-foo and, weirdy, whatever. And yet I know, and to share my own story, I learned from someone, in asking the questions about the way that I grew up, because I'm one of 7 kids. And when my parents fought, they always fought about money. And the person that I was talking with asked the question, well, how did that make you feel? And the person is you, by the way. And I said, it made me feel insecure. I was always worried that we were going to lose our house. It made me feel really insecure. That's really hard for a little kid. And then the question was, is there any question as to why you became a financial planner? And for me, that was a mic drop moment because it feels good for me to understand and to have power over what we do financially because I didn't feel that power at that time as a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell the story of what happened and how you and I met?
Yeah. So I came into your office because I have been going through a transition in my life, and I started asking myself the hard questions. I started, really noticing where I had been avoidant around money in my life, and a lot of shame around that. Shame's it's a big core wound emotion, and it really could keep us in a shame spiral. And then we just get caught in that, and then we can't take the action that we really truly want to take so we can move ourselves forward. But I think it's important to really notice when that comes up, because for me, I felt like I was really stuck in like kind of a frozen state for a while. I was realizing things were happening that made me feel insecure as well. I was feeling scarce. I was feeling scared about my future. I was worried. I was blaming myself for the ways that I had allowed myself to be disempowered. And not to get caught up in blaming another, but to see my role in my own suffering. That feels really important to me now.
Yeah.
Because if we're just pointing fingers, we're just staying stuck where we are. So I brought that finger pointing to myself, and not in an unkind way, but to say, what do I know in this moment? What are my goals and desires for my own future? And what can I do to move myself along? And so I received a random mailer with your beautiful face on the cover, and I said, I'm going to meet this woman. I felt a connection with you from just seeing that you had been a nurse and knowing that the grit that a nurse has. Yes. I'm a nurse practitioner as my kind of, by trade. And I loved that we shared that. And so I did. I noticed where I was being avoidant. I got the mailer, and I know people can relate to this. I said, I want to meet you. I waited. I made oh, I'm going to make the appointment. I didn't make the appointment. You know, we want to, but there was a frozen tension in me that I just couldn't move forward. And it took me a while. I made the appointment, and then gathering the documents was so daunting. And then I was really noticing all the feelings that were coming up for me around that. I was crying. I was feeling, again, that shame about how did I allow this to happen in my life? Why don't I know these passwords? Why don't I have these things in my hand? I have to ask somebody else for them. Overwhelmed by all the nursing jobs I've had over the years and where all those 401ks are, and the companies have merged over time, and who's all of it. And I was stress snacking. I was zoning out. I know people can really resonate with that. We pick up our phone, we scroll through social media a minute, we check an email, and the task doesn't get done until we find ourselves with enough documents to sit in front of you. And then the discomfort comes up again. Like, I have to look at you in the eye and say, oh, Patti, I'm in trouble, or I feel like I am, right? Am I going to be okay?
Exactly. And you know what? For whatever it's worth, Natalie, I said it to you that day, and I'm going to say it again. You're not alone. So many people go through that. And, you know, there's a process that we have here at Key Financial, and it's something that has evolved over time, and it works. And the meeting that you and I had, it's a free consultation. I had one this morning, right? And the reason for it is because there's so many people out there that just don't know what to do or even where to go. And there are certain things that if I have, you know, a sense of what you've done up until now, look at your tax return, look at your statements, right then and there, once we're face to face, we can hit the ground running and I can give you direction. And as I did this morning, I was able to say to these people, you know, if you do these 4 things that we've talked about, it's low-hanging fruit. You shouldn't pay us. You shouldn't pay anybody. You're good. And just keep in touch. And I have to tell you that was, I think they were shocked to begin with, and it was liberating from them. And I was able to look them in the eyes and say, hey, you know what? You may not feel great right now, but there's things that you can do so that 5, 10, 20 years from now, you're going to be in a much better place. So it's really interesting. What is the process that you go through?
Yeah. So over time, it always comes down to safety and our and that safety that we feel inside. Like, I think about the client who comes to you and to Key Financial because they desire to feel a sense of financial safety. But when you think about it, there isn't a dollar amount in the bank that's going to make you inherently feel safe inside because of our past patterns, our family of origin stories, and some of our just conditioning, you know, thus far in our life that have gotten us to where we are now, that have been playing out kind of unconsciously, I think, to most people. And they don't realize how it's affecting their life. And it always comes back to safety and survival. You can have all of the support around you, but if you don't know inside that you have the capacity to meet yourself, you're not going to be able to take that aligned action and do the things that are going to meet your goals and desires. So in embodiment, we need to feel safe within our own body. So we prioritize that. And then the client usually comes with some kind of goal. By the end, it usually ends up revealing that it's something else entirely, but they have a goal at the top of their mind. And then I guide them through like a guided meditation of sorts. It's about 10 minutes long. And I help them really, and it's important whenever, you know, if there's a client out there who's trying to gather documents to meet with a financial planner, and they're feeling all these feelings coming up, and they're feeling themselves activated, it's just a standard thing to just have your feet on the ground, your hands on your body somewhere that feels soothing to you, and just feeling a sense of the support beneath you, the earth, the furniture, and just bringing it down into the body. And you can even place your hands on your heart or hand on your legs, somewhere on your body that feels comforting to you. And just dropping out of the mind a little bit and just feeling your own heartbeat, noticing your breath, becoming present to this moment. And then I talk to them about their heart space. And the most beautiful part of not to give all my secrets away, but one of the most, I think, profound moments of the meditation for my clients has been when I guide them into their heart, into the depths of that, and into the heart, inside the heart, inside the heart. And I always talk to them about the unstoried self, the part of you that was there the day you were born, before your parents' stuff came in, before the world came in, told you you're not enough, told you to keep going, told you to push harder, to earn more, to go to the gym the extra day, to be enough. You already were. You already were. So remembering that there's a part of you that is still unstoried, it's deep. And then moving into your kind of gut, your like pelvic bowl, your belly, where that intuition lives. And when you settle the noise of the mind and you remember the 90% of you below your head, that there's a whole percolating world there that calls to you. We just got really disconnected and tuned out from it over the course of our life because we ignore those red flags. We don't want to look at them. We ignore the gut instincts because you're being called to a more academic or intellectual or conceptual way of thinking things that we shut out that, oh, I should have known better. We shut it out. And so just calling people back into that they have the power to go there anytime. It's you're walking around with it every day, that body, that heartbeat, that gut knowing, and just bringing them back into the power and the safety that they hold within themselves. And then we can work from there because they're grounded in safety. They're not in reactivity. They're not in fear. They're not in anger. And then as things come up through our conversation, then we can pause and say, let's stay with that a little bit. I'm noticing, you're getting ants in your pants. I'm noticing a tone change. Like I'm tuning into all of that. And then inviting them to sit with that a little bit so we can just pass through.
I think it's fascinating how you frame things, Natalie, because the unstory part, that is so cool to get rid of all of this, all of the noise, the stories we've been told and that we've just, embraced and just taken as truth when maybe they're not.
That's right. It's questioning. It's all about the inquiry, questioning. And maybe they didn't say it directly, but I know the adults, the well-meaning adults around me who loved me over the course of my life, parents, grandparents, they have a story too. And it's a misunderstanding that was placed upon me that it's only now I'm questioning, was I too much? Was my truth, too uncomfortable for them that they couldn't handle? Were they scared and told me, oh, don't worry about it? Did I feel something that they said, oh, how many times do adults say, oh, don't worry about it. Mommy and daddy have it. Or, oh, grandpa's taking care of it. Like, and so a child or even a young adult has something, but they're told not to. They're told not to follow that thread.
It's interesting because I think it's so important that people feel empowered, right? You know what? You don't have to do things perfectly right away. There are certain things that if you just, understand and act upon it, and most people are not going to die if they make the wrong decision, right? And that's where that safety comes in. I think that that's where sometimes going through rough times and getting to the other side is so therapeutic. I know for myself, I've gone through a lot of really rough times in my life. And now it just doesn't bother me. Been there, done that. Okay, it's going to be awful while we're going through it, but I'm going to learn. And you know what? It's going to benefit someone else because I can share what I've learned. And that's so important. I also think that the people who recognize that and who can just kind of let it go, call it delegate, what have you. Once they feel that release, it is so liberating to know that they're safe, that they don't have to know all the nitty-gritty of their tax returns or their estate plan, that together it's a collaborative process, that at any time they can call upon someone and, we got this, we understand it, and we'll explain it to you in words that you can process. That's where our nursing background really comes in, because I think that communication is so important. And to explain things in a way that people can process and understand so that they do feel safe.
Yeah.
So in order to get to that point, that safety, that feeling like, okay, I'm good, getting through that overwhelmed feeling of gathering all this information that you may not understand. Tell me more about what that was like for you.
Feeling safe as I'm gathering my things.
Well, I think that initially you didn't feel safe. What did you do to get there?
Yeah. I definitely got caught in a lot of inaction for a while, and I really noticed that frozen tension.
And were you saying, what stories were you telling yourself? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Because I never get the opportunity to ask people these questions, so I'm so grateful to you that you're willing to share it. Because, it's a vulnerable spot.
It is. Yeah, and I think vulnerability is our superpower. It really is. I think for all people, they don't realize it. We're so afraid to allow ourselves to be seen for the human experience that we're experiencing, that we put a mask on, that we have it all together, or we'll figure it out, or I have time to deal with this later, or I'm going to default to my partner for,
A lot of people do that.
Yeah, sure. And, we assume these roles. And we tell ourselves, someone else is going to take care of that. And we make people our safe people. Maybe it's, as long as my boss keeps this company going, I'm good. Or as long as my partner keeps bringing in this money, I can keep doing what I'm doing and kind of turn a blind eye to these things and allow myself to not, have accountability.
It is very interesting. A lot of people don't recognize those patterns, the Amazon packages coming every single day, et cetera. That is such a destructive habit. And unfortunately, these companies know how to work with our brains. There's that dopamine hit every time that package comes. It's retail therapy, call it whatever you want, but it's so destructive. And I think that your point about couples, I know that oftentimes one person takes care of the kids, the other person takes care of the money. And unfortunately, the communication isn't happening. And, they turn around when they're 55 or 60 years old and realize that the kids are out of the house and why are we still married? And the person that wasn't involved in the decision-making is so unempowered and scared to death and maybe staying in a relationship that they shouldn't stay in or what have you, but just is so afraid.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear. A lot
Yeah.
of fear there. And then that person could feel, that they don't have any way of making their life different.
Right, exactly. So Natalie, you have your own practice. Tell me more about that. If people listening, watching, want to learn more about this, like what's it like working with an embodiment coach? What should they expect?
Yeah, I think, what I've heard from clients is, I know, like you said about the Amazon, everything's instant gratification, right? But the return on the investment is the question to ask, right? So I'd say if you invest about 8 weeks of your time and energy with me, it looks like a slow start. We'll just hear about what's going on for you. It's an evolution. It's definitely an evolving conversation because, like I said, that initial goal is not what that person ends up. There's always something more underneath the hood of the car.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, there's that thing behind the thing, right? And so, so we talk about those goals. I think what I've heard from clients is around that 6 to 8 week mark, they start to feel the more profound effects of the safety that they're tapping back into, reconnecting with. And they start to just make more like intuitive decisions. There's a peace behind, letting go of the urgency to do everything yesterday. So they're just like a little bit more calm. They're calmer. They're making decisions from a place of alignment. They're tapping back into like their values, what their goals really are, because they've settled all the stuff, all the noise, and they've made it a practice because we meet weekly. And I have had clients say, the instead of maybe a coach or a therapist who's asking multiple questions, there's like one or two profound questions that they sit with. It lingers with them through the week. They're thinking about it as they're pouring their coffee. Natalie asked me, how do I feel about XYZ? And they're thinking about it, and the lingering sense of peace that they feel after we meet in the days after. That means the world to me, because who doesn't want to feel more peaceful? And making decisions from a place of the opposite of urgency, which is just less reactivity and more like, I can think about this and I can feel good about that decision. It's a hard one, but I feel good and grounded in my body. I know I'm not thinking my way through, but I'm feeling my way through it. And so about 8 weeks is a good amount of time to really make some life-changing.
It's not that long. No. It's not that huge of a commitment, and it could be life-changing for people.
Yeah.
So how would people get in touch with you, Natalie? How do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I have an Instagram. It's at Natalie Angeloni, all one word. And there's a link to book with me there.
Wow.
Yeah, and certainly send me a message.
That online stuff is fantastic. That's wonderful. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us. I've learned so much today. I have a couple of people I might need to send to you. And you know what? We all have stuff, right? We all have stories, and it's okay. You're in this no judgment zone. Yeah. That's what I love about this. There's no judgment. It just is.
No judgment.
Let's just identify it so that you can make more proactive, really good decisions that are leading you in a healthier way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I invite people who are preparing to meet with you to really notice what's coming up for them somatically in the body. And maybe make note of that. Just jot it down in between gathering the documents. And really, if I could invite people to do one more thing after you notice, is just to put your hand on your heart and say, I am not these numbers. I am not the numbers. I have power and agency over my financial future, and I'm learning a new way of being. And when they sit in front of you, they're going to learn a new way. Yeah. They're going to feel empowered.
I love that. It's so interesting how we frame things, Natalie, because I tell people all the time, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're not a pie chart. You're not your money.
Yeah.
You are a family. You're a couple. You've got things that you think about, things that you want to do. Let's figure out what's possible in your life. It's a lot of fun.
That's right. And taking the fear away and facing. It's going through the door of the unknown, like you were saying. On the other side, it's beautiful. It's going through.
Yes.
The only way through is to feel the feelings involved in this process.
Right.
So you can meet the other side. And you're going to be over there. You're going to be a better version of you on that other side.
It's interesting. I've been saying this week, you talk about you'll be over there, you'll be, and I think that when I think about the stuff that's happened in my, top 100, number one in Pennsylvania, all that stuff, that's fine and dandy. But what's the thing that's really cool for me to think about is to realize that everybody that works at Key Financial, like Evan's here in this podcast room, we've got really smart people. I've got people who came here who didn't have any experience with finances. Former nursery school teachers, they were in different fields. Everybody that is here is a different person than when they first started. That's the coolest thing about all of this, is that we're all growing, we're all evolving, we're all learning, and we get to share that with other people.
Yeah.
And just like you did today, thank you for sharing all of this. I really appreciate you, Natalie.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for joining us today. I hope this has been as helpful for you as it has for me. Thank you so much for listening, joining us. Call Natalie. She's incredible. I wish you could be here in the studio with us. It's just pure love. Take care. Bye-bye now.